All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of In Between Days, where we discuss all the latest happenings on the NBC hit soap Days of Our Lives. It can also be seen on Global in Canada. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Usually we talk about the first 3 days on our midweek show, and then our end of the week show covers usually Thursday, Friday, and the weekly preview for the next show. But this edition is coming out a day late, and therefore we're going to try to pack in as much as we can. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is what we'll be covering in just a moment. But first, we're going to play some comments from Deidre Hall, who plays Dr. Marlena Evans on Days of Our Lives. She recently spoke with BJ Koros, and I want to play a few of those comments for you quickly before we get into the recaps of the week. Hang on.
You know, I've said so many times, this really is a family. And I don't just mean the Days of Our Lives group. I mean daytime. We all work so hard. Days of Our Lives has managed to stay on the air because we shot so far ahead. So we were able to produce fresh programming during the entire pandemic. But we all know how hard we work. We all know how hard the work is. So it's a celebration of what everybody does best.
All right, so we just heard Deidre Hall, who plays Dr. Marlena Evans, talking to BJ Koros about how Days of Our Lives was able to produce new programming all throughout the pandemic. They went on a long hiatus, but because Days of Our Lives was producing content 6 to 8 months in advance before the pandemic, they had all this show to roll out before they were in the need to have to make any new shows. And so throughout the entire pandemic, we thankfully got uninterrupted, for the most part, Days of Our Lives episodes. And so that's a little bit of Marlena talking about how Days of Our Lives managed to put that all together, and of course a 2-year renewal recently, so we're going to get 2 more seasons minimum of Days of Our Lives. And now let's get into the week that happened on Days of Our Lives. We're going to start right in with Monday. So on Monday, here's what happened on everybody's favorite soap. Basically, the soap on Monday starts off with Jake telling Kate that it is Gabby that in fact he does love. Gabby went and told her that, obviously, and she continued to fake being blind and all of that. But now that Kate voted Jake out last week on Days of Our Lives, he was voted out of power at Dimera. It has basically come to be that Kate has no reason to keep pretending that she's blind and that she can't remember anything, so she drops a bomb on Jake and Gabby, and she admits that she was faking the whole time. Chad and EJ also argued a whole bunch on Monday. They are supposed to be future co-CEOs for the Dimera Enterprises, and if that goes through, they're going to be working as co-CEOs, but of course that's going to be a little bit tricky. And are they going to be able to get along? So they are already teasing some sparks flying between Chad and EJ. Are they going to be able to do things in a fluid way together, or are they going to continuously argue so that nothing gets done and that Dimera does not fare too well? We'll have to wait and see. Also on Monday, Kristen, who is a fugitive right now and in hiding, she sits down to write a letter to her brother, Dearest EJ. And I can only speculate, but it seems like that letter is going to have the real story about what happened with Sammy and her affair with Lucas. And if EJ gets his hands on that information, obviously all hell will break loose sooner than later. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, Jake doesn't want to live at the mansion anymore after being kicked out of power, although it's Gabby who has inherited the house and owns the house because she was married to Stefan Dimera, Jake's twin. which is ridiculous because Jake and Stefan, let's face it, they never existed, but they do now. So Gabby somehow, through Stefan's death, became the owner. She inherited Dimera Mansion, and she said, Jake, if you don't want to live at this house anymore, you're not the one that has to leave. I'll kick all of them out, and they'll have to leave. But Jake just says he doesn't want to live in the mansion at all. He doesn't want to look at that creepy picture of Stefano above the fireplace. He doesn't want to have anything to do with Dimera. He regrets ever finding out that he was a Dimera, basically, and we'll see where that goes. Are they going to live in the garage that Jake used to live at? Are they going to move in with Gabby's Gabby's brother, Rafe, and Ava? There's a lot of people in between homes right now in Salem, and we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out, because it does seem a little bit crowded in some places. We've got Lucas living above the pub. We've got all sorts of people in hotels all the time, and a lot of people are displaced right now. Also, Chanel is feeling very excited about the launch of her new bakery with Allie. It's called Sweet Bits, and she's very excited, but her mother Paulina is feeling very guilty because she's got some sketchy plans for the town square that nobody knows about, and it definitely is going to impact her daughter's plans with the new bakery, and so she's feeling all kinds of guilty. And I believe that by next week, or maybe even by Friday, we're going to find out what the true deal is with what Paulina has in mind for the future of the Horton Town Square. I think she's beginning to feel more and more guilty, and probably for good reason. Also, Sammy and Lucas fight about what else other than EJ. Lucas is basically implying that Sammy is controlled and a boring housewife, and he's fighting to be with Sammy, and he's fighting to have her admit that she is also in love with him. On Wednesday, Chloe goes to Belle about advice for Brady and Philip, who she is torn between. I would say, if those are your choices, now that Brady has ditched Kristen, I would say maybe Brady and Chloe would be a more solid pair than Philip, who seems to just be spinning his wheels. I'm not sure what he does, but he just kind of hangs around and wants to get back together with Chloe now that he is, I guess, over Belle, who is obviously married to Sean. Strange. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Lonnie asks Paulina what she is keeping from Abe after she overhears Paulina on the phone, and Paulina uses a cover story. What she's really keeping from Abe is her plans for the Horton Town Square that he signed off on, but somehow he doesn't really truly know what it is that he signed off on, and all of that's going to come out soon. But Paulina for now uses a cover story with Lonnie, and she tells Lonnie that she had to go back out of town, I think it was to Chicago, to wrap things up with another man who is no longer in the picture, and she just didn't think it was important enough for Abe to know about, and she didn't want Abe to know that she had been dating some other dude in Chicago when it's over anyways. But of course, that's all a cover story, and it has a lot more to do with her plans for the Horton Town Square. Also on Wednesday, Rafe is talking to the stuffed bear that Nicole and Rafe have shared custody over, which is okay. It's an inside joke, but it's a little bit ridiculous as it is with this bear stuff. But if that wasn't funky enough as it was, now they've got this bear talking to Rafe in Rafe's voice, so it's just representing his conscious. It's kind of representing him talking things out to himself and processing stuff, and I understand that, but I would also like to say way too campy, and I'm just not feeling it. I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling it. It's a little bit too stupid and too campy. They've got Rafe talking about a bear, and the bear is basically egging him on and telling him he's getting himself into a complicated situation being with Ava and still having feelings for Nicole. A lot of people think that Rafe isn't over Hope, but I say Rafe is with Ava and he's into Nicole. basically, hope who? I think he's moved on. On Thursday, Ben wakes up and he has seen Sierra in a dream. She's come to him and she remembers everything, but that's just the dream and that's not what's about to happen. Also, major story here. Dr. Snyder's dead body does in fact turn up in the lake. It is found by the girls. Not Abby, I was about to say Abby, but it was found by Claire, and Allie found the body. They were at the beach with Ben and Tripp, and the girls find the body. They run out of the water. Eventually they call Eli. Eli asks if any of them have known this man, and of course Tripp is able to identify the dead man as Dr. Snyder, who was his boss, the very same boss that was going to make him stay in the hospital on the holiday on the 4th of July, but he never showed up. And when he never showed up, Tripp went with his friends to the beach, and now we have Eli in his police officer capacity asking Tripp, so this man was your boss, what did you think of him? And obviously Tripp was not very fond of Dr. Snyder, and he also tells Eli about the recent indiscrepancy with the pill count at the hospital, and Eli is very interested in that and asks him if there's anything else that Tripp can tell him, and Tripp says, well, there was one other thing, that he seemed to be having some issues with one of his patients, Gwen. And so Eli now has all of that information, and he is eventually going to go to Gwen's to question her, and we'll see how that all pans out, probably on Friday or next week, when Eli goes to question Gwen about what he knows about the disappearance of Dr. Snyder. So Tripp has given Eli a couple of leads about the pills and about Gwen. Meanwhile, Xander had told Gwen not to worry about anything and that he had gotten rid of the body, and Gwen wanted to know what exactly Xander did, and he told her, don't worry about it, everything is under control. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because obviously the dead body wound up floating in the river, and it has been discovered, and perhaps it would have been better for them to just come clean in the first place and say, this is what happened. The doctor then had a heart attack. We didn't kill him, but instead they disposed of the body, and it's now turned up, and that's going to bring a bunch of trouble for not only Xander but for Gwen as well. And we also have Chanel and Eli sneaking around. Now, they're not sneaking around in the way that you might think I mean sneaking around. Really, they're just trying to plan a party, a secret party for Lonnie. But Chanel basically was cooking or baking some cake in Lonnie and Eli's apartment, and she had headphones on, didn't hear the alarm. The cake gets overbaked, there's smoke in the house. Eli runs down in his towel yet again. Of course, he's got to be in his towel, and he's upset with Chanel because he's like, there's twins in the house, you got to be more careful. This place is gonna almost got burnt down. But when he ran downstairs to tend to the stove, of course his towel falls off, and this is like the third time that his cousin Chanel has seen him naked, and Lonnie's not too happy about it. So as Lonnie is coming home, Eli says to Chanel, Lonnie can't find out about this. So she's like, find out about what? And they make a cover story because they don't want her to find out about the surprise party. But I think Lonnie's getting a little bit more suspicious and a little bit fed up with her cousin being around and all the time accidentally seeing Eli naked. Eli, man, you need to get a robe and some boxers and stop running downstairs in your towel until your cousin is able to move out. Gwen also tells Xander everything. She's told him parts of the story up until now, but she now tells him everything, including that although everybody thinks her baby died after she fell down the stairs, she in fact miscarried before that. that's a long and complicated thing. She was in a state of shock and panic, and she feels actually bad that she told everybody that story because it caused Abigail to leave town and a whole slew of other things, but she cannot really go back on what she said now because she feels that would jeopardize her relationship with her father, which is being mended, and she really wants to have a family with especially Jack, but even I think she wants to be a part of the family with Jennifer and Abigail and all of them, but that's extremely complicated now because of what happened between Gwen and Chad and Abigail being out of town and the miscarriage and people not really knowing the true story behind the miscarriage because she has chosen to hide it, and that's why Dr. Snyder was able to blackmail her, and now Dr. Snyder winds up dead, and she was involved in all of that, although they didn't intentionally kill Dr. Snyder. It's about to get very complicated and very ugly, you would think. And finally, Xander is asked by Gwen, what are you going to do? Are you going to tell Jack everything? Are you going to out me? Are you going to throw me under the bus? And Xander says, no, I don't like that you're deceiving Jack, and I don't like what's happened to you at all, but I understand why you felt at the time you needed to do what you did, and I don't want to jeopardize your relationship with your father, as Xander says he may never find a good relationship with his family, but he does not in any way want to keep Gwen from finding her relationship with her family or nurturing that or being able to have that. So he understands where she's coming from. Both of them really relate to each other, and they both thought for a long time that they were either orphans or close to being orphans. They've got similar backgrounds, and I think it's kind of pushing them together in some strange way. Also, their connection through Jack. Xander has become a very good friend of Jack's, and Gwen, of course, is his long-lost, recently found daughter, so it all ties together, and that's how Days of Our Lives more or less finishes with Thursday. Gwen and Xander almost share a kiss, and we're all going to get to see together where that goes, that journey. And yeah, I actually look forward to that. I actually ship that. I actually like Xander and Gwen together, the odd couple, the outcasts of Salem. Maybe they can help one another out, and although their pairing doesn't tie them necessarily to anyone in Salem, I think they would make a very great couple on Days, and not everybody has to be related to the main bunch of families. And in any case, Xander is related to the Kiriakises, and Gwen is now Jack Devereaux's daughter, which pretty much makes her a Devereaux and an honorary Horton, so it's not like they are completely just miscellaneous characters with no ties to anybody. Anyway, I think that's what's going to be the end of this episode. We are going to come back soon over the weekend, and we're going to talk about Friday's episode along with the weekly promo videos, so it will probably be a little bit of a shorter episode than this one right here. By the way, coming up on Friday, if you don't want any spoilers, plug your ears for just a second, but I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just going to tell you that coming up on Friday, there's going to be shocking news at Lami and Eli's party, and I would speculate that would have something to do with Paulina's plans for the Horton Town Square. So all of that is about to go down, plus the return of Sierra, Brady, Weston to Salem. What is she going to do, and what is her interaction with Ben Weston, her husband, that she can't remember going to be like? And by the way, if you can't remember your husband, couldn't you just go on your Twitter, your TikTok, your Facebook, your Instagram and watch old photos and say, well, I must have had some feelings for this guy that I was married to, and I don't know, Ben did try to show her things from the past and she wasn't too interested in seeing them, but I'm just going to point out, in the age of social media, you would be exposed to seeing these things even if you could not remember whatsoever. You could, she might be avoiding looking at those things because of how she now sees Ben. All she can see is that this guy, Ben Weston, was a murderer. He's mentally ill. Why would I have ever married him? He's done all these bad things. She can't see him as the redeemed person that he now is, or at least how the show presents him now. He's a redeemed character. He is a good person. He's healed. He's done his, he's done his time, and he's gone and rehabilitated himself, and he has this like clear pass that he is mentally stable and is no longer a raving lunatic serial killer. But Sierra can only see what she remembers and what makes sense logically. And logically, why would she be with somebody who in the past he was the necktie killer? So if you think about it from Sierra's point of view, seeing as she can't remember all their history and how he helped her in the cabin and nursed her injury and saved her from the motorcycle accident, if she can't remember all of that herself, you would think that people would still be telling her and she would still be seeing things on social media, and the memories would maybe not come back to her organically, but she would be able to see a lot of this evidence of their time together, and you would think that she would be more open-minded instead of running off with Theo. But we'll see how that all pans out. And of course, there's a very complicated part to this entire thing, which is Hope left Salem to look for Sierra, but in reality, Hope is not renewing her contract with Days of Our Lives. They made her an offer, I think, for less money and less time, and they wanted her to just be off canvas for a while. And she said, if you want me to be off canvas for a while, I'll just stay off canvas. That's the way I read it and understand it. So if anybody has any more information out there and wants to correct me, feel free. But the actress who plays Hope, Kristen Alfonso, is not interested in coming back to Days of Our Lives. So storyline-wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense why Hope would not return now that Sierra's in Salem, because she was all about focusing on getting Sierra back. But I'm sure they're just gonna... I don't think they're going to recast Hope, because that would be something very difficult to do, and it would be very difficult to get the fans to accept a new Hope. They're barely accepting this new EJ, which I think I'll get into a little bit more in the next episode. The EJ controversy, by the way, don't forget Johnny Dimera also on the way, and Eric Brady returning to the show for a little while. All that to look forward to, and we'll talk more about it on the next episode of In Between Days. See you next time.